Welcome back to Daily Dose of Knowledge. If you're new here, welcome. You're in the right place. Subscribe and drop a comment because today, we're talking about something that shapes every single aspect of your life, whether you realize it or not. Power, not power in the superhero sense. Not power in the political headline sense. Real power. The force that determines who gets heard and who gets ignored, who leads and who follows, who builds empires and who spends their life working for one. Today we're going deep. What power actually is, where it truly comes from, why some people seem to naturally accumulate it while others never do, and the different types of power most people don't even know exist. By the end of this video, you'll see power completely differently. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start with the most basic question that almost nobody actually answers properly. What is power? Most people define power as authority, a title, a position. The ability to tell people what to do. The CEO has power. The president has power. The boss has power. But that definition is dangerously shallow, because it confuses the symbol of power with power itself. Here's a better definition. Power is the ability to influence outcomes, to shape what happens, in a room, in a relationship, in an organization, in a society, according to your will. Notice that definition has nothing to do with titles or positions. A person with no official authority can have enormous power. And a person with an impressive title can be completely powerless. This is the first thing most people get wrong about power. They chase the symbol, the title, the position, the status, without understanding the actual substance beneath it. Philosopher Bertrand Russell defined power as the production of intended effects. Simple and brutal. Power is your ability to make things happen the way you want them to happen. Nothing more, nothing less. Now here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Why do humans seek power at all? Is it greed, ego, insecurity? The answer is more complex and more fundamental than any of those. Psychologist Alfred Adler, one of the founding fathers of modern psychology, argued that the drive for power is one of the most fundamental human motivations. He called it the striving for superiority. Not superiority over others necessarily, but mastery, control over one's own circumstances. At its core, the pursuit of power is the pursuit of security. When you have power, you have options. When you have options, you have safety. When you have safety, you have peace. This is why even people who claim they don't care about power still seek it in their own domain. The parent who controls the household. The employee who becomes the indispensable expert. The friend who always decides where the group eats. These are all expressions of the same fundamental drive. Power seeking is not a character flaw. It is a survival mechanism baked into human psychology over hundreds of thousands of years. But here's where it splits. There are two fundamentally different relationships a person can have with power, and they produce completely different outcomes. Psychologists call them the personalized power orientation and the socialized power orientation. People with personalized power orientation seek power for themselves. To dominate, to control, to feel superior. This is the version of power that destroys relationships, corrupts leaders, and tears organizations apart. People with socialized power orientation seek power to achieve goals, build things, protect others, and create change. This is the version that builds lasting influence, loyal followings, and genuine legacy. The difference isn't in how much power someone has. It's in what they believe power is for. History's most destructive figures had enormous personalized power orientation. History's most enduring leaders had socialized power orientation. The goal was never themselves. It was something bigger than themselves. And paradoxically, that made people give them more power freely. Now let's get to the question that cuts deepest. Where does power actually come from? This is where most people have it completely backwards. They believe power comes from above. It is granted by institutions, inherited through family, bestowed by circumstance. And sometimes that's true, but that kind of power is also the most fragile. Because anything that is given can be taken away. The most durable power comes from below. It comes from the consent and perception of the people around you. Political philosopher Bertrand de Jouvenel observed that no ruler, no matter how absolute, can govern without the cooperation of at least some of the governed. The moment that cooperation fully withdraws, the power collapses. Think about every political revolution in history. The ruler didn't lose power because someone stronger came along. They lost power because enough people stopped believing in it. Power evaporated the moment the collective perception shifted. This means power is fundamentally psychological. It lives not in the person who holds it, but in the minds of the people who recognize it. This is one of the most profound and unsettling truths about power. It is a shared illusion maintained by collective belief. The king has power because enough people believe he does. The moment they stop believing, he is just a man in an expensive hat. So if power is perception, how do powerful people build and maintain that perception? French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu gave us one of the most useful frameworks for understanding this. He identified different forms of capital that translate into social power. Economic capital is obvious: money and material resources. But Bourdieu argued this is just one form and not always the most important one. Social capital is your network. Who you know, who vouches for you, what rooms you can access. In many situations, social capital is worth more than economic capital. Cultural capital is your knowledge, credentials, tastes and behaviors that signal belonging to a certain class or group. The way you speak, what you know, how you carry yourself. This is why education is really about more than information. It's about acquiring the cultural markers that signal membership in powerful circles. And symbolic capital is perhaps the most powerful of all. Your reputation, your prestige, the meaning and authority others project onto you. This is pure perception converted into real influence. Powerful people are not necessarily rich or educated or well-connected. But they almost always have a combination of these capitals working in their favor. And they understand intuitively how to convert one form into another. Now let's talk about the types of power, because this is where it gets practically useful. Psychologists John French and Bertram Raven identified 6 bases of social power, and understanding these will change how you read every room you walk into. The first is legitimate power. Power that comes from an officially recognized position or role. A manager, a judge, a police officer. People comply because they recognize the authority of the role, not necessarily the person. The second is coercive power. Power through fear. The ability to punish, threaten, or impose consequences. This is the most brittle form of power. It produces compliance but never loyalty, and it collapses the moment the threat is removed. The third is reward power. The ability to give people what they want: money, recognition, opportunity, approval. This is more durable than coercive power but still transactional. People follow as long as the rewards continue. The fourth is expert power. Power that comes from knowledge, skill, and competence. The surgeon, the engineer, the strategist. This is one of the most legitimate and durable forms of power because it's genuinely earned and hard to fake. The fifth is referent power. Power that comes from admiration, respect, and identification. People follow because they genuinely want to be associated with you. They are drawn to your character, your vision, your presence. This is the foundation of true leadership, and it's the most powerful form on this list. The sixth is informational power. Control over access to knowledge and information. The person who knows things others don't, or who controls what others know, holds enormous influence. This is why information has always been one of the most jealously guarded resources of the powerful. Most people in power use a combination of these. But the most enduring power structures are built primarily on expert and referent power. Because these cannot simply be taken or transferred, they are earned through genuine competence and genuine character. Now here's the question that might be most personal to you. Why do some people naturally accumulate power while others with equal or greater talent never do? The answer is not luck. It is not purely genetics. Research in social psychology points to a consistent cluster of behaviors and mindsets that power-accumulating people share. The first is that they understand the room. They read social dynamics with precision. They know who holds influence, what people want, what people fear, and where the real decisions are being made. This social intelligence is not innate. It is developed through deliberate attention. The second is that they control the narrative around themselves. Powerful people are deliberate about how they are perceived. They understand that reputation is an asset that must be actively built and protected. They don't leave their image to chance or to other people's interpretation. The third is that they are comfortable with discomfort. Power consistently goes to people who are willing to make decisions others avoid, have conversations others fear, and take risks others refuse. The willingness to act in the presence of uncertainty is one of the most reliable predictors of who rises. The fourth is that they build obligations. Not through manipulation necessarily, but through generosity, helpfulness, and strategic relationship building. Every favor given is a thread in a network of influence. Powerful people understand that their network is their net worth in the deepest sense. The fifth and perhaps most important, they believe they deserve power. This sounds simple, but it is psychologically profound. Research consistently shows that people who carry themselves with confidence and expectation of influence actually receive more of it. Not because the world is fair, but because humans instinctively defer to those who project certainty and authority. This is the cruel paradox of power. It flows most easily to those who already act as if they have it. Which means the single most accessible entry point to accumulating power is not money or connections or credentials. It is how you carry yourself in every room you walk into. Power is not just something that happens to people. It is something people build, deliberately, consistently, through the accumulation of credibility, relationships, knowledge, and presence. And understanding that is the first step toward building it for yourself. That's your daily dose of knowledge for today. If this video shifted how you see power, drop a comment below and tell me the most powerful person you know, and what type of power you think they have. Share this with someone who needs to understand how the world really works. Subscribe because part 2 is coming, and that's where we go even deeper into how power operates at the scale of entire societies and how it is shaping your life right now without you realizing it. I'll see you in the next one.